Hello. Welcome everyone. Thank you all for being here tonight. My name is Michaela and I use she, her, and hers pronouns. And you might notice that some of us will choose to share our pronouns in an effort to not make assumptions about others' gender identities.
Hi, my name is Annie and I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, my name is Kyle and I use they, them, their pronouns.
Hi, I'm Alyssa and I use she, her pronouns. We are VOP ambassadors and we were the main organizers of this event.
So the Violence Against Women Prevention Program, or VOP, works to address and prevent all forms of gender-based violence through education, outreach, and advocacy.
Gender-based violence is an umbrella term used to reflect the idea that violence often serves to maintain structural gender inequities. Gender-based violence includes rape, sexual assault, relationship violence, stalking, and sexual harassment, and is most frequently committed against women and or individuals whose perceived gender expression challenges normative stereotypes. Take Back the Night is an annual event held each April in honor of Sexual Assault Awareness Month. First and foremost, our goal for tonight is to provide a safe and empowering space where victim survivors in our community feel validated and supported. Our long-term goal is to cultivate a campus culture where supporting and validating victim survivors is the norm. Our longest-term goal is to live in a world where victim survivors do not exist because individuals do not commit acts of gender-based violence to begin with. In order to eliminate social problems, we must first understand their scope, impact, and root causes. Tonight, we ask you all to join us in achieving our immediate goal and begin to consider your own role in the pursuit of our longer-term goals.
We would like to note that throughout the evening we'll be using the term victim survivor as an umbrella term to describe those who have been affected by gender-based violence. We use this term to recognize that not everyone identifies as either a victim and or a survivor, in an effort to honor people's agency to choose how they would like to identify themselves. Additionally, as the topics being discussed here tonight may be emotionally challenging or triggering, we encourage you to take self-care throughout the event. Further, if there is anything that you choose to share tonight that you would like to follow up on, the brochure found on each of your seats outlines various on- and off-campus reporting options and support resources, including professional staff at the Women's Center.
Before we begin, we would like to thank Event Services, the Yukon Police Department, Sexual Assault Crisis Center of Eastern Connecticut, the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, which includes all of the cultural centers, the Native American Cultural Center, and everyone at the Women's Center. Additionally, we would like to express thanks and gratitude to all the student-led initiatives, organizations, and volunteers who helped to make tonight possible. And finally, to VOP alum Jacqueline Pajano and Kyle's dad, Ted, for their thoughtful artwork reflected in tonight's program and throughout the event.
This evening, we have a very special guest, the university's Associate Vice President and Chief Diversity Officer, Joelle Murchison. In addition to serving as Director and Trustee on the boards of Morgan State University Foundation, the Amistad Center for Arts and Culture, and College Possible, a national nonprofit focused on college access, Joelle serves as the university's main strategist responsible for guiding efforts to define, assess, promote diversity, inclusion, and educational and employment opportunity at UConn. As we move through this evening, we would like to acknowledge the intersectionality of victim-survivor identities and the power of lifting one another after these traumatic experiences. In order to achieve the former, we have been working with the cultural centers, including the Native American Cultural Society, to better understand how sexual violence affects various communities. These discussions have shed light on the identity-based stereotypes that often serve to minimize or deny the impact of gender-based violence on victim survivors at the margins, and in many cases, factor into their decisions to seek support, care, and justice. In light of Joelle's important new role here on campus, we could think of no one more fitting to highlight some of the overlapping themes, as well as the distinctions that emerge cross-culturally. On that note, please give a warm welcome to Joelle Murchison.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. So I know you're all out there Well, first let me thank the organizers and the staff of the Women's Center for your willingness to provide me an opportunity to come and share with all of you this evening. This is a very special invitation for me, as I've had the opportunity to speak in a number of different settings throughout this academic year. But for some reason, this particular event, Take Back the Night, really kind of hit me in a very special place. And so I hope to be able to share with you some reflections from my own experience as we think about the theme of this year, but also to charge you and challenge you to think about this topic differently and the role that you too can play, whether you think you've been impacted or not. Now, I do have some notes that I wrote. I have some stories that I want to share with you, but somehow I feel like I might be a little off script, so you'll have to forgive me as we go through the evening. What I'd like to do is to give you a little bit of data, some information that you'll be able to take with you, but also share some stories with you so that you understand exactly how this hits home. So in Connecticut alone, many of you may know these statistics, but it's important for us to remember that 1 in 5 residents of Connecticut, men and women, are victims of sexual violence. And the thing that I think is important in that is defining what sexual violence is. Now, back in the early 90s when I was in college, so I am dating myself, sexual assault and our focus therein in the first Take Back the Night that I ever attended was really focused on rape. And I think that that's all we ever thought about. How do we define rape? What was consent? And I know that those are terms that you're still talking about today, but the definition of sexual violence is expanded. And it talks about coercion, manipulation, threats, intimidation, force, not just penetration. And even back then in the 90s, it was very hard to talk about things like that. I loved music, and there were songs out, in fact, songs like Let's Talk About Sex. Nobody really wanted to talk about it. There were opportunities to learn about prevention and to learn about consent, but oftentimes it was hush. It was in the quiet spaces. And there wasn't an opportunity, certainly not in the way that you all have the opportunity to gather, to talk about these important issues and what we can do to help. So when I think about both my time as a student and undergraduate and early in my career when I worked as a student affairs administrator at a small liberal arts college just down the road from here, I think about how important this night is to give individuals an opportunity to lift their voices, to take off the mask. Many of us wear a mask every day to hide all those things that are happening that impact us. The things that maybe cause us to feel shame, the things that we don't want anyone else to hear about. But this is an opportunity to take the mask off, to begin taking steps toward healing, and then even for those who may feel like they have not been directly impacted, to begin to take the steps to know how to support. It's really important to provide these spaces, and I do hope that you will all take advantage of the different opportunities this evening, whether via the march or via the speak out, or even later on this evening at the coffee house, to find space to take off your own mask. So as I talk about, when I was back in college, I was fortunate to be a part of a very unique group of students on campus called the Sexual Assault Peer Educators. And way back then, one of the things that we were very clear about was that sexual assault was not one-dimensional. But I'm sure many of you can think about when you hear the word sexual assault, sexual violence, or even rape, you get a vision, an image in your mind as to what you think that is. Back in the 90s, that was always some guy, and I'm intentionally saying guy, in the dark of night, maybe even a masked man who jumped from behind a bush, right? That was what we heard was the story. And so if that wasn't your experience, if someone had jumped from behind a bush and attacked you and sexually assaulted you, then it wasn't really valid. There was nothing to talk about. And those instances, I have to tell you, as much as that was the image, were few and far between. In fact, what all of us know is that in most instances, these cases of sexual violence happen between people who know each other, right? Maybe we've stepped past a boundary that we weren't really sure of. Maybe we had, and hey, I've been there, a little bit too much to drink, and you wake up the next morning and you have no recollection of what happened, right? Maybe these are situations that we've all experienced with people who we know and love. And I think that was what caused me to get involved way back when on campus. You see, that semester, there was an event that took place that rocked us to the core. Two of our friends, and I say our because I went to a predominantly white institution, much smaller than UConn, and so the population of students of color was significantly smaller, to the extent that I can tell you I remember specifically there were 91 African American students in my class. 91. There's probably like 91 people in this section, right? So when I say that an event rocked us to our core, it's because it happened within that community. One of our friends was the survivor. And yes, one of our friends was the perpetrator. How did we deal with that back then? What could we do? What was the university's response, and how would we respond in a very, very small knit community when not only do we not talk about sexual assault from the perspective of what happened then, but in the Black community, we didn't talk about it at all. So what could we do? We knew that there was more for us to learn, that there was an opportunity to expand the definition, and most importantly, there was an opportunity to educate not only our friends on the college campus, but the students in high school who would be coming right behind us, who would come to college just like we did, not expecting to talk about sex, not understanding necessarily what healthy sexual relations were, taking on some old cultural norms and expectations about how, and at that time, speaking from a heterosexual perspective, how men and women were supposed to interact. You all have heard it, I'm sure you've seen the movies, right? The girl gets a date with the guy is supposed to, because of the date, because he paid for the dinner, he's supposed to get something at the end of the night, right? You all remember all of that. That stuff is built into our cultural psyche. And believe it or not, when you think about young people, and I almost had my little 2-year-old here with me this evening, and when I think about what she sees, what representations of how people in relationships interact, and how we treat one another, how we talk to one another, the songs that we allow to be played. We may not even think about it casually until you hear the words. My significant other is a DJ. One of the things he's chosen to do is play clean music. So oftentimes I don't know what the songs really say until I hear it somewhere else. And when that happens and you hear how people refer to one another in the music that we all love the beat, right? And we want to jam. But what are we saying? What are we messaging to young people? What are we messaging to ourselves that allows us to accept or even expect the kind of behavior that leads us into situations of sexual violence? No, it's no one's fault, but we can't deny the fact that it's around us in our society, that there are messages all over the place that tell us that certain things are okay, that behavior is normalized. I want to share with you a quote from one of my classmates, ironically. She's a South Asian woman who I only learned last year after she wrote a wonderful, powerful piece that I would encourage you to check out in the Huffington Post. Her name is Sonia Shah. And she wrote a piece about, after hearing some of the videotape between Billy Bush and our now president, she wrote a reflection. And in that reflection, she talked about the fact that she was a survivor of childhood sexual abuse. Now, I knew her the entire time we were in college, but I never knew that. And she talked about how that moment triggered her to help her to realize and understand that she had not dealt with the pain that she had in fact felt. And so I want to read this quote. When I talk about normalizing the behavior, she says, "We live in a world where sexual violence, especially violence against women and children of color, is normalized. Their safety is dismissed, and their bodily integrity is not valued. Our culture's conflation of sex and violence and the systemic disregard of communities of color is often at the root of multi-generational cycles of violence. But it does not have to be this way." She urges us to think, imagine what the world could be like if sexual abuse were no longer normalized. And so that's some of what we have to think about. When I think about that situation on campus, when I think about the opportunities that we all have, not only to reach back when I was in college and we reached back to high school students specifically, but also in Providence, where at the time there were no less than 70 different languages being spoken in the school system. How did we make our message around sexual assault relevant, culturally relevant, across languages and across different cultural realities? So let me share some more data with you, just to give you some additional facts that you may or may not know. And as the organizers shared with you, they did get some reflections from students in the cultural centers to help us understand some of those deep-seated cultural realities, the norms that we hold on to and that we bring here. So for example, for every African American woman who reports her rape, at least 15 African American women do not report theirs. In a study conducted in the early 90s, 60% of South Asian immigrant women spoke of being raped by their husbands. What we heard from students in the cultural centers, and we know to be true across the country and surveys that have been taken, is that within the cultural context, oftentimes it is not widely accepted to tell on your own. And so while a lot of what we see in the media about rape, as I shared that whole image of someone jumping from behind a bush, we know that not to be the case. Not only are we talking about people that we know and love, but oftentimes people in our own families or communities that it would appear to be disrespectful or dishonorable to indicate that they had done something wrong. This is what people hold on to. Many married Hispanic Latino women view sex as a marital obligation and are less likely than other women to define their experiences of forced sex as rape. Now listen to this one. American Indian and Alaska Native women are more likely to be victims of sexual violence committed by a stranger or acquaintance. So this kind of puts on its head what I just talked about, rather than a family member or intimate partner. Approximately 70% of the perpetrators are non-native. And you know what else I learned about that? One of the reasons that's the case is that oftentimes the non-native perpetrators, who in some instances may have come onto a reservation, are not able to be prosecuted. And so that community becomes targeted as a space where clearly sexual violence can take place with no repercussions. It's these kinds of things that we as a collective community should be concerned about. When we talk about our LGBTQ community, 44% of lesbians and 61% of bisexual women experience rape. 44%. Rape, physical violence, or stalking by an intimate partner compared to 35% of heterosexual women. So 44 and 61% compared to 35%. 26% of gay men and 37% of bisexual men experience rape or stalking or physical violence compared to 29% of heterosexual men. So there's some proximity there. Among transgender racial minorities, 24% of transgender American Indians, 18% of transgender multiracial identified folks, 17% of transgender Asians, and 15% of Black transgender respondents experience sexual assault in K through 12 educational settings. Much higher rates for students of any other races. And so these are the things that we have to ask ourselves. What are the messages, what are the stereotypes that we hear about certain cultural groups that make them more targets of sexual violence? And how do we as a collective community begin to address them? So as promised, I want to share a couple of stories with you and then just try to wrap up with some suggestions on how we as a community can come together from tonight and begin to change the space, particularly here on this campus, but more broadly. So a lot of times when we think about sexual violence, we don't always think about some of the situations that happen to people. So I wanted to share just a couple of things. This is what one woman called her locker room incident of 2016. 11 months ago, I received a piece of hate mail at my work address. It was an old, smelly sweatshirt with the name of the college where I teach on it, so this is the faculty member. And taped to the sweatshirt were the handwritten words, Indian whore. It was anonymous. To this day, I have no idea who it was from. It was sent across town in San Francisco. Someone took the time to mail me a piece of hate mail, and I have no idea who they are, whether it's a colleague down the hall or someone I met once. Another story. 6 months ago, a coworker in one of my work locations, an older married man, was trolling me on Facebook, making me have meetings with him that I didn't need to have, and stalling approval of my project so that he could barrage me with inappropriate comments and endless questions about why I didn't have a boyfriend. And I wonder what you'd be like if we got some alcohol. And then I'll share one of my own. I go to a predominantly African American church. I have 4 children. And I have breastfed every one of my children. Now, in our sanctuary, I've always felt very comfortable with a cover nursing my children. Well, one Sunday, someone who'd been a member probably as long as I, who sat maybe 2 pews behind me, as I finished nursing my daughter and kind of closed everything up and took the covering off, he said to me, "I got next." In church, right? The older married man in church who sits behind me decided that it was appropriate to say that to me. And so that happens to all of us, in all spaces, in all times. We as a community need to come together and call out the language, some of the lyrics, and I'm not intending to bash the cultural things that are important to us, but we need to, as a community, call out those things that make us, any of us, feel less than. So just a couple of things to wrap up. 4 things in particular from my classmate who wrote the piece in the Huffington Post, which again, I urge you to check out. We need to become a supportive and empathetic culture. And that goes to what I just shared. Even if it's not about you, think about how your friend, your family member, your colleague, your classmate might feel should they be otherized and made to feel less than, or even taken to the next level, treated in a way that would lead them to intimidation and violence. Violence is clearly not outside of our day-to-day lives. We hear about it all the time. We should understand how it happens and that there's no singular solution to ending violence. One thing, however, that I might suggest is thinking about what we say to our babies, what we tell our young people, what we tell each other, and when we know when things aren't right, being willing to call them out. Third, we need to radically shift gender socialization. It's those messages, right? The machismo that we hear about in the Latinx community, the expectations about what women should do, or because of a particular cultural background, what women can be. How do we let go of that socialization? And then finally, we should find a way to celebrate healthy sexuality. Now, clearly, when I was in college, as I shared with you all, we weren't necessarily as comfortable talking about some of those topics as I think many of you are today. And the woman who ran our sexual assault peer educators group was a renegade on campus because she taught the human sexuality class, and people actually got to say private parts out loud. You know, back in the 90s, we didn't even really, we said private parts. So we didn't really say those words or talk about the uses of things that we can all do to keep ourselves safe. So push the envelope a bit and talk about healthy sexuality, as opposed to those things that we hear sometimes in our music and our popular culture that suggest that it's only connected to those things that could lead to violence. And so the challenge before us all is to begin to unlearn some of the things that we've all learned our entire lives. We're immune sometimes to the things we see and the things we hear because we've always been taught that that's the way it is. But I think that all of you being here at college know that part of your time here is to challenge the status quo. It's to challenge the dominant paradigm so that you can find the right answers, not just have people force feed them to you, but challenge and ask those questions and protect ourselves as a community. Too many of us suffer in silence. Too many of our friends are still wearing a mask that's covering hurt and pain, that sometimes leave them debilitated and not able to go to class, finish their semester, or even graduate, allowing them to move forward with a productive life. These are things that unfortunately keep some of our brightest stars from the fullness that they are intended to. And so it's time to remove the mask and see us for who we are. As this year's theme says, together we rise up. It's time to lift our voices, and it's time for us to remove the mask and the shame and the pain of sexual violence and sexual assault and come together as a community to not only take back tonight, but to take back all of the nights as we move forward. I wish you all the best, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with you. I'm excited about the energy in this room, and I know that together we can make a difference. Thank you.
Singing a mashup between Somewhere from West Side Story and Over the Rainbow from The Wizard of Oz. Both songs are about a pursuit of a better future. As you listen, we ask that everyone begin to consider their social responsibility in creating a better future for victim survivors here at UConn. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Lees.
Brian's Why Oh Why Can't I, the song really highlights the challenges of working towards a brighter future as individuals, which connects to this year's theme of the importance and power of lifting each other up and working towards ending gender-based violence as a community. For a comprehensive list of everyday ways to eliminate gender-based violence, please reference pages 3 and 4 of the program. On that note, we encourage you to hold on to your programs following the event, as they include a number of valuable resources. Now, please join me in welcoming our next speakers from our Greeks Against Sexual Assault program.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alyssa, and I'm a junior and a sister of Alpha Phi. During my first year at UConn, I decided to join the Greek community, and it has been one of the most rewarding decisions I've made at my time here. That being said, I quickly became dissatisfied with the culture of the Greek community and the normalization of issues such as sexual assault that are so salient within it. When I joined GASA my first year, I found an inclusive environment in which I could express my concerns and work with other Greek students to educate our community and take steps towards making our campus a safer place. This mission includes both education on rape culture and gender-based violence and a call to action for all members to share what they learned in GASA with their own Greek chapters. Additionally, we have been working to provide Greek students with knowledge about various on and off-campus resources and reporting options available to victim survivors after incidents of gender-based violence.
Hello, everyone. I'm Saloni. I'm a sister of Alpha Chi Omega. This year, my co-facilitator, Alyssa, and I began reaching beyond our GASA cohort to educate the Greek community by holding bystander intervention workshops with Greek chapters across campus. We aim to reach every Greek student on this campus, both fraternities and sororities alike, to give our peers the tools necessary to reform our culture's toxic beliefs and behaviors, and to hold each other accountable in the most serious way when gender-based violence does occur. For example, we discussed how if a member of your organization is a perpetrator of sexual assault or harassment, the next steps your organization takes, whether it's termination of that member or education about that topic at chapter, sends a message to the rest of the organization about what kind of behavior is acceptable. This semester in GASA, much of the discussion has revolved around risk management procedures that chapters can take as both a prevention tool and an accountability tool for both our own members and the general Greek community. This includes increased dialogue between organizations and the 3 Ds of bystander intervention: direct, distract, and delegate, when they do see something that makes them uncomfortable. The increased likelihood of a fraternity man to be a perpetrator of sexual assault and a sorority woman to be a victim survivor of sexual assault is not something the Greek community or the greater UConn community can ignore. Though we've come a long way, we know that this is a collective effort and there's still much work to be done.
Hi everyone, my name is Cassie and I'm a sister of Pi Beta Phi. I got involved with GASA because I felt that as a Greek woman, it's very important to be aware of the issue of sexual assault and know how to discuss it. By joining GASA, I have realized how important it is to simply just talk about how to prevent the issue of sexual assault and be aware of rape culture on our campus. GASA has informed me more specifically about bystander intervention. I have become more aware that there is certain behavior that is responsible for causing someone visible discomfort that requires intervention. When intervening, self-care and safety are very important. Make sure you feel safe when intervening and try to think of the available options you have in order to protect yourself as well as the victim during a situation where sexual assault might occur.
Hi, my name is Megan, and I'm also a sister of Pi Beta Phi. We often hear harmful phrases like rapey frat or slutty sorority without having much conversation about the rape culture that perpetuates this language and belief system. In GASA, we talk about the negative effects of such terminology as it normalizes and trivializes sexual assault, which is the very definition of rape culture. We can start having such conversations with the larger community by actively disagreeing with someone who makes these type of comments and giving them information about how it is harmful. Our goal as a group is to be advocates for our own chapters, the Greek community, and the larger UConn community for proper sexual education, bystander intervention, and sexual assault prevention on campus. We talk about how to recognize the potentially harmful or violent situations, strategies for intervention, and how to support and empower victim survivors and the resources available on campus. I'm thankful to be part of I'm thankful to be able to participate in such programming as well as be part of Take Back the Night tonight, and I hope to continue a well-informed and ongoing conversation about these issues with the entire UConn community. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gasa. Our next speaker is Stephen Tomastic, a first-year student who will be speaking about the goals of and his experience in the Men's Project. Let's hear it for Stephen.
Hi, I'm Stephen. My pronouns are his, him, and he, and I'm from the Men's Project. The essential goal of the UConn Men's Project is to prepare and mobilize those who identify as men to become agents of change regarding gender-based violence. Not only do we delve into the facts of these issues, but we draw upon our own experiences or use any lack thereof as a guide in how we as men can deliver upon our promise and responsibility to take action against rape culture, which is language and behavior that is either indifferent to or encouraging of gender-based violence. This may include anything from victim blaming to sexist or misogynistic jokes, or even to casually or subtly aggressive language. Personally, since my participation in the Men's Project began, I've started to hold myself and others more accountable for what they say or how they act, specifically things I never noticed. When I hear people make comments that perpetuate rape culture or sexist attitudes, I respectfully call them in and explain the damage that this can do. Just the other day, I heard someone in my family make a comment about how his wife should be there to please him because he was the, quote, man of the house. And I approached him after to help him reflect on how these kinds of words are not as innocent as he may think they are. The language we use does matter, which is something that I think many people tend to forget or dismiss. If all our lives we hear that, for example, women are submissive and men are dominant and strong, even if it's a joke, we internalize that and pass it on to others, including our children. Gender socialization like this is very hard to unlearn, which is what makes it imperative that we are cognizant of what we say. A part of accountability is recognizing our own privilege and trying to overcome the biases that it brings with it. This allows us to be more empathetic and understanding to those who are different from us, which makes us more willing and able to challenge ourselves and others to be more accountable, because we would know, for example, why trans women of color are the most likely to be victims of gender-based violence. We would know why young members of the LGBTQ+ community have higher rates of suicide and depression. And when we know these things, we have a lower tolerance for behavior or language that incites the kind of harmful language and behavior that lead to these effects. Part of overcoming cultural biases also has to do with men doing away with the social construct of masculinity based on dominance and toughness. I can think of countless times when other men in my life have criticized me for showing emotion or struggling with something. I was told a two-word phrase that many men can relate to hearing: man up. These expectations that are put on men provide more societal pressure to be aggressive or to be dominant, and that carries over into how we treat women as submissive to men. Traditional notions of masculinity like these are often the basis for gender-based violence. The accountability that men must exercise is critical in the prevention of gender-based violence. The more men recognize and actively challenge sexism and rape culture in their everyday lives, the less normalized it becomes. And without social norms and discourse supporting or even encouraging gender-based violence, acts of sexual violence will no longer be tolerated in our society. What makes the Men's Project really unique is that we are an incredibly diverse group made up of different identities, beliefs, backgrounds, and experiences that collectively strengthen us in equipping ourselves with the necessary knowledge and awareness to actively fulfill our responsibility. The greater accountability we have, the more room there is to change the rape culture our society has come to know. The Men's Project teaches us that this is a group effort and one that I'm proud to be a part of.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Before our next guests take the stage, I'd like to quickly make a plug for our final Sexual Assault Awareness Month event taking place next Tuesday at 7 p.m. in the City Union Theater. Former NFL athlete Wade Davis will be on campus to discuss the cultural construction of masculinity and the ways in which it intersects with race and sexuality. Attendees will leave with tools to critically reflect on the impact of their own gender socialization and identify their role in gender-based violence and prevention on campus and beyond. Next, we will have a poem by 3 of my friends and classmates from the Vought class. And while we acknowledge that everyone's experiences are different, and while this poem will reflect, we acknowledge that everybody's experiences are different, and the poem will not reflect everyone's experiences. These will reflect the unique perspectives of these 3 individuals. So I'd like to welcome Eve, Emma, and Laurel.
The phoenix burns cyclically every 500 years, let's say. It puts on a great show of flames, and then turns to ash. The phoenix sees it coming. The phoenix plans ahead. The phoenix knows they will be born.
The knowledge of the future, the knowledge of their rebirth, guides the phoenix effortlessly through life, regardless of the flames, regardless of the fire, regardless of the ash. They continue on with life, unbothered by the impending future, because they know, they have planned, they have seen, that they will rise up from their ashes, they will be reborn.
We don't quite see the flames on the horizon. They catch us off guard, at an unknown place, at an unknown time. With the utter essence of ambiguity, we wait for the flames to rise.
And we cannot see ahead into the future like the phoenix. We cannot know the flames to come, their strength, their intensity, their timing. And we cannot see the new person that will rise from our ashes. We are not phoenixes. We don't have wings or talons or beaks. We don't have the foresight of a phoenix to protect us from the flames and the ambiguity that encompasses them. We don't know what lies ahead. We will never be able to.
With this ambiguity comes fear of the unknown future that lies ahead. We cannot know the strength of the flames, the intensity of the flames, the time or place of the flames. What will happen, we ask. When will it come, we ask. Will I be strong enough to handle it, we ask. What will become of me? We are not phoenixes. We cannot predict what is to come. We cannot plan, so we wait while we continue on with life.
But we will rise from our ashes, no matter the flames, no matter the fire, no matter the ash. Piece by piece, ash by ash, we will rise. Escaping the suffocating darkness of the ashes, we will climb into the light of a new day.
The phoenix will meet the flames. One day they will come, but alas, they have known, they have seen, they have planned. The flames come, and they are unafraid. They embrace them courageously, for they have known, they have planned, they have seen that they will rise up.
We will rise up like the phoenix, from the flames, from the fire, we will rise. We do not have the insight, the beaks, the talons, or the wings. We are unlike the phoenix. But we have hands, feet, legs, arms, eyes, and ears. We have a heart, a soul, a mind, and a being. We have compassion, perseverance, intuition, knowledge, strength, happiness, support, and love, which will help us to rise. We will rise.
And again, unlike the phoenix, we won't come back the same. We will be different. We will rise a different person than before, marked by the flames. That's where we're fortunate, though. Yes, we'll come back with hesitation and maybe a little fear, but mostly we'll rise stronger. Maybe with a little sadness, but nonetheless, we will rise. With new insight, with new knowledge, with new strength, with a new mark from the flames to represent our courage, our perseverance, our strength, our new self, our survival.
And we will not rise alone. We have one another. We will grieve together, cry together, struggle together. But most importantly, we will fight together, and we will grow stronger together. We will rise together.
Although we are not a phoenix, we will rise. We will rise stronger, braver, wiser. We will face the flames unafraid. We will face them courageously, because we too have intuition that we will rise. We are strong, we are brave, we are smart. We are tough, we are wise, we are compassionate. We are fighters and we are survivors.
With these gifts that we have, we know that we will rise. We are friends, we are family, we are lovers, and we are supporters. We will rise together, we will rise better, we will rise together.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. For those who may be interested in enrolling, the VOC class is offered during the spring semester and provides students with a broad exploration of gender-based violence and the ways in which it intersects with other forms of oppression. Additionally, this class aims to equip students with the skills needed to facilitate prevention and awareness workshops for the campus community. For our final performance, we would like to welcome Praise Dance Ministry, a faith-based student organization that seeks to encourage, motivate, and uplift others through movement arts. Tonight, they will be dancing to the song Rise Up by Andra Day. The song is about encouragement and togetherness and really encompasses one of tonight's major themes of lifting victim survivors up. Please give a round of applause for Praise Dance Ministry.
Broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round. You can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Ooh, mountain, we gon' walk it out. And mountain. And I'll rise up like the day. I'll rise up and pray. I'll rise up, and I'll do it just
Well, thank you. That was beautiful. It was beautiful, right? We would now like to invite you all to join in our Solidarity March around campus. There are signs and posters located at a table outside the ballroom for marchers to use. There will be someone handing out and lighting candles outside. Also, if you look on the back of your program, there are chants. We will be reading or using these chants, so if you want to follow along, please bring your program. After the march, we will be returning to the ballroom for a speak out portion of the event, where victims, survivors in our community will be invited to share their stories or experiences in a safe and empowering space. For those who might like to share during that time, we invite you to occupy the reserved seating in the front row upon your return from the march. For those who are interested in joining one of the student groups represented tonight, please feel free to write your name and email address on the respective sign-up sheets located on the tables outside those doors. Thank you.
It was like Challenger. It's 840 horsepower. No, that much. It's called Hell Demon.
I do have a seat. We're trying to think ahead. Thank you. Is that just a back? Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah, I'm gonna
This is why I need 2 reps.
If anybody needs candles, we're going to start lighting them, so just move in this way. Okay.
I can't see it.
Well, I didn't want to burn it.
Once
I
you
had to walk through the crowd.
Once you get your candle, if you can move this way, that would be awesome. Maybe that's up front. Oh, I did not like that. So, you say as you once you get your candles, if you could please move to the front and we'll get moving in a second. Like, just want to know where I'm walking. Yeah, of course. So, we're going to be going down here to my right into this. Yeah, I want the candles. There's like chairs right there. Yeah. Let's go. Listen, I'm about to burn
I'm not going to be able to do that.
excited for this.
He's like a friend that I played.
Usher was in fact promised that when he was on the stage, the light is
Okay, I need you to see.
I have no idea what he's saying. I can do another. You're so dry and dead. We're just gonna catch on fire. Look at that double. 2, 4, 6, 8. No more violence, no more hate. 2, 4, 6, 8. No more violence, no more hate. 2, 4, 6. I thought it was. I don't know any other chants. I don't know what you're doing. Oh, I got you. Ready? No one's chanting. Because we're like that in the wall.
Shatter the silence! Stop the violence! Shatter the silence! Stop the violence! Shatter the silence! Stop the violence! No more hate! Wherever we go! Yes, we can! There's no meat now! Claim our bodies! Claim our rights! Take a stand and take back the night! Claim our bodies! Claim our rights! Take a stand and take back the night! Whatever you do, whatever you say, you won't take our night away!
Whatever you do, whatever you say. Oh shit, no. I'm normal. I'm normal.